Hello gatekeepers, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about retained placenta. What is a retained placenta? The different types of placenta retention. And I'll also be sharing the second half of my free birth story, which was the birth of my placenta, which took an additional 21 hours on top of my 18-hour labor for my son. Okay. So let's get right into it. I'm hoping and praying that this specific video is a huge blessing and a resource to a mom in need, because I remember when I was going through this, when I was experiencing my retained placenta, there was no information. There was absolutely, it was scarce. You Google, what is a retained placenta? And you get all this stuff, all these different things, the symptoms and what you need to do as far as going to a hospital. And I was like, no, because I'm not going that route. And so it was so hard to find anything. I didn't find it. To find how can I naturally expel my placenta? How can I pass my placenta naturally? So I want to be that resource. I want to be that resource for the desperate mom who has a retained placenta and has no idea what to do. Watch this video. It will help you. And I hope you don't have a retained placenta because it sucks. Okay, so let's get into it. So what do I talk about? What is plantains are so good. Ooh, garlic plantains right now would be delicious. Okay, I don't know which one I should share first. So I'm just going to continue with the second half of my birth story, which was the birth of my placenta. And then I'll get to what exactly is a retained placenta and how to pass a retained placenta naturally. If you haven't watched the video of my first free birth with my son, make sure you watch that if you want to know all the details about that, and then come back. Oh my gosh, my trackpad. And then come back and watch this one, or just skip that one and start here. So after I had my son, I was laying down and I was just on cloud nine. I couldn't believe I just did what I did, and my son was finally here. He was the cutest little chunky monkey, almost 9 pounds, 2 pounds shy. No, 2 ounces shy of 9 pounds. He was delicious. He smelled delicious. He looked delicious. I was in heaven, and I was just fully relaxed. Contractions were gone, and I was just loving on this baby, and I was just floating away. I felt so great. So about 45 minutes passed, and the cord stopped pulsating, and my husband cut it, all the good things. And then I'm like, okay, the placenta's still inside. I don't remember it ever being in there that long. We got to get it out. How do we get it out? So I have this book called Home Birth on Your Own Terms by Heather Baker. It is amazing. I need to show this. Oh, it's right there. But I can't stand up because I don't have pants on. Guys, I don't ever have pants on. I barely ever have clothes on. I put clothes on for you guys. Okay, I'm back. This is the book, Home Birth on Your Own Terms by Heather Baker. This book is an invaluable resource. If you are well on your way to have a free birth, home birth, unassisted, or with a midwife, whatever the case is, you're going to want to read this book. This empowered me and informed me so much. Heather, she's a midwife. She went so into detail about so many things, pre-pregnancy, pregnancy, postpartum. So in this book, she gave a list of all the emergency situations, and I made sure that I was well versed, because we're doing this by ourselves. We need to know what we're doing. We need to know what to be aware of, all the things, right? And so we planned for absolutely everything. Cervical lip, cervical regression, meconium, shoulder dystocia, what else? Just everything that could go wrong, breach, all the things. We prepared for all of it. This we did not even prepare for, because we had no idea that it was even a thing, like that your placenta gets stuck or trapped or attached to the uterine. Like, I was like, what? I had no idea this was even a thing. So anyway, this book, you need it. I'll link it in the description below. Okay, so about Heather. Heather, what a beautiful angel. So I was just laying there in my bed, and I'm like, I'm going to get up because, you know, this needs to come out. And at that time, right, like those 10 minutes, I started getting really extreme contractions. And I'm like, okay, because my body's like, something's still in there. We need to get it out, right? So I stood up and I was just like doing squats. I peed, you know, I was just like, all right, come on, placenta, like, come out already. It's almost been an hour. Like, your time is up. And it wasn't coming out. So I was like, okay, honey, I don't really know what to do. So I just started doing some research online, and like I said, found nothing, like absolutely nothing. I wrote in one of the birth groups I was in, but it was so late that I barely got any responses. So while I was in that group, I had a thought. I'm like, okay, Heather Baker, which is the author and midwife of the book I just shared, I remembered that she was in that group. So I said, you know what? I'm going to video call her. And it was like 12:30 midnight. I don't know what I was thinking. I didn't care. Like, I was just like, I'm calling her. And Lord Jesus, I pray she answers. So I called. She did not answer. And literally like 2 minutes later, she wrote me back. And she called me, and I was like, hi, Heather. I'm like, I'm Amanda. Oh, introducing myself, you know, I'm like, I'm Amanda. Just had my baby. I've been in labor for the past, at this point I was like 20. I've been in labor for the past 20 hours. I had my son. My placenta has been retained for the past, 2.5, 3 hours. I don't know what to do. Like, am I okay? I just don't know what to do. And so, my husband, I was like on all fours, and my husband went all up in it with the camera. So she was able to see what was going on, and she was just such a voice of peace. She was such a voice of peace and assurance at the time that we really needed, especially my husband. My husband at the time was feeling really anxious because, like I said, it was not something he prepared for. And also, like, he was just, like, afraid, like, are you okay? Like, what do we need to do? And before we talked to Heather, I was able to, like, ease him and help him feel better. I was like, listen, honey, I'm very in tune with my body. I'm like, I trust my body so much. I know when something's wrong, and I would never be prideful or I'm having this thing at home and that's it, like, no, like, if something's wrong, I'll get the help I need. Like, my life matters more than something that I want it to do. You know what I'm saying? And so I was like, listen, honey, I was like, I feel okay. I'm in pain because these contractions suck, but I'm okay. I'm not bleeding. I'm not hemorrhaging. Like, my skin tone is fine. I'm not pale. I don't have a headache. I don't feel feverish. I don't have any chills. Like, I'm okay. I assure you, I'm okay. Like, I'm right now in this current state, this current hour, I'm okay right now. And we don't need to go to a hospital or anything like that. Like, I feel okay. I trust my body. And I think we just have to wait. Like, it's going to come out, but it's just not coming out yet. I remember telling him that. And then fast forward now to the conversation with the midwife. And she's like, listen, honey, she's like, this is a variation of normal. Like, it's not talked about a lot, like, ever. You could barely find it anywhere online, but it happens. And then she just told me that the day before that she just had a mom that her placenta was retained for 48 hours. Woo! I went 21 and it was horrible. I'm like, oh my gosh, I couldn't even imagine 48. Bless her. So she's like, you're not bleeding. You look good to me. like rest assured it's gonna come out. You're in the safe zone right now. You're okay. If anything changes and you start bleeding and you feel this, all that stuff that I want to get into, but not yet. Then she's like, whatever, we take a different course at this point, but you're okay. And so my number one question was like, can I go to sleep? I was like, I'm exhausted. I'm so tired. These contractions suck so bad. They hurt. And I'm so tired. Like, can I go to sleep? And she's like, yeah. She's like, go to sleep. She's like, if you can, like if you can sleep through the contractions, she's like, go ahead and go to sleep, and it's going to come out when it's ready. So we hung up the phone, and my husband, he just looked so much more peaceful, where he's like, okay, we got this. I was like, yes, we got this, baby. Don't worry. We got this, boo, And so, I was nursing my son. He was laying in the middle of us, co-sleeping, and those contractions were just killer. Oh my gosh. And especially because I'm breastfeeding and the placenta's still in there. And before I went to sleep, I made sure, like I was putting in work, because I was like, I want this thing out, And so I was in the shower, and I was doing all the things that the moms in my group had recommended. So they're like, sit on the toilet, have peppermint oil on the toilet, make sure you keep peeing, that your bladder's empty. They're like, suck on the cord, bite the cord, cough in your hand, and something. I don't remember what that one was, but I was doing all of it. I got in the shower. I was jumping. Your girl was jumping. I was jumping after I just had my baby. I was praying in the name of Jesus, come out, placenta. I was doing all the things. And this placenta was not coming out. I was even taking Angelica tincture, and I'll make sure I link that in the description below as well. Basically, Angelica tincture it makes you have contractions consistently. So I was just taking that thing, and these contractions were just coming. And so after I was in there for a while, it was not coming out. I'm like, okay, let's slow down on the Angelica, because at this point I want the contractions to stop, because I need to go to sleep. Like, I need to sleep. I'm exhausted. Let's try this again in maybe a couple hours, because I just didn't know. We were in the unknown. I had no idea when this thing was going to come out, and then since I had heard that she had just experienced someone having it in for 2 days, I was like, who knows, we might have this thing in for 2 days. So I was bracing myself, but I knew that I needed sleep. So I stopped the Angelica tincture, and I laid down and I went to sleep. And I just remember my umbilical cord. It was pretty long. So when I stood up, it like went to my, like right at the bottom of my knee. And so I just remember it being completely limp, white, no blood. And it was just cold and thick. It was just like this wet, cold noodle. And while I was sleeping, it was just like resting on my thigh. Oh my gosh, I'll never forget this. And so I went to sleep, and I slept through the night. Yeah, I slept through the night. I woke up around maybe, what time was it? Like 6:45-ish. I just know me and the kids, everyone, we all woke up at the same time. And I woke up, and I'm like, honey, it's still in there, And so I was having some mild contractions here and there. And I was like, get the Angelica. Get the Angelica. We need Angelica. So I started taking the Angelica. I was nursing my son, and I was just loving him. He was so cute, but I was just so uncomfortable. I was just like, oh, I just want to like lay down and feel comfortable, and just like, and I was still doing all the things. I was sniffing all up over him and had him all on me, and I'm like, ooh, in pain. And it was not stopping me from loving my baby, but they were bad. These contractions were just like, they were on another level. It was like, they were like pre-transition intense, like right before getting to transition. I was just in pain all these hours. And so I remember my mom FaceTiming me, and I'm showing her the baby, and we're all happy and stuff. And then I was getting a contraction. I was like, oh my gosh, Mom, I gotta go. Hold on, I'll call you back. And I just hang up, because I feel like this is important to know. if you have people in your life, like I think we all do, that love us and are well-meaning and all the things, and may not be at the level we are when it comes to like trusting our bodies and doing home birth and stuff, all these different things, you know, they could project their fears onto us, you know, and I didn't want that. I was like, no. So I was like, if I tell my mom right now, she's going to freak out. She's gonna be like, Mandy, you need to go to the hospital right now. Oh my gosh, all the things. And I just didn't want that. I was like, I don't want the fear. I don't want doubt. I just didn't want any of that, you know. My mom, I love her. She's the best person in the whole world. My beautiful angel mommy. So I was like, I'm not gonna tell her because I'm gonna scare the crap out of her. She's gonna be like, what does that mean? What is that? Are you okay? Are you going to die? Please go to the hospital, Mandy, you know. And then she's in another state. So I just knew, I'm like, let me not. So when those contractions were coming, I was like, Mom, I gotta go. Boop, hung up. And so I'm just contracting. I'm just going throughout the day. I'm contracting. It's like I was literally having another baby. I was just laboring, having another baby. And so, because basically, I'm going to get more in detail, but what happened is that my placenta was trapped. My placenta was trapped because my cervix closed up. And so now I had to go from 0 centimeters to 10 centimeters again, so going through all the stages of labor all over again just to birth my placenta. So Angelica, we're still doing that, the Angelica oil. And I mean, there's dosages. Like, I think I was, I'm gonna have to look, but I'll make sure when in the blog post that I'll be very specific with this. I think it was like a dropper under the tongue, holding it there for 60 seconds every 15 to 20 minutes. I'm not sure, but it's gonna be exact in the blog post. And so I'm just doing all these different things. I was doing like lunges. I was gently pulling on the cord, and it was not coming out. I was eating. I was making sure that I was, you know, I felt okay, having fluids, had energy. I was not bleeding like at all. So that was a really good sign. And that just continued throughout the whole day. So let's just get to the main point now. So then around, what time was it? It was around like 5-ish. I remember laying down on my side, and I remember having like 3 really, really, really big contractions right on top of each other. And when that happens, like, you don't know what to do. Like, you don't know what to do. Like, I felt like I was a fish, like a fish that just got pulled out of water, and I was just flopping all over the place. Like, I'm like, what the sensations, everything you're feeling, it was just overwhelming. And you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? All I knew was that I needed to get up. I needed to stand up. And so I was like, oh my gosh, Nathaniel, help me up. I need to go to the toilet. And at this point, I was in transition. I started bearing down. I was grunting. I couldn't even walk to the toilet. Like, I was like hunched. I was hunched completely over. Like, my whole top half was hunched over, and I was just like walking like this, like my legs slowly. I could not even walk straight. I sat on the toilet, and I was having a bunch of contractions, and these were just like coming back to back. And I had my legs on the squatty potty, and I had my legs just spread open the widest that I could have them open. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I feel like I have to push. So I remember this moment. I feel like crying. I remember this moment. Before I get to that, oh my gosh, before this, like, mind you, it's probably already, I think at this point, like at this point it was the 21-hour mark, but around this, like the 17th, well, the whole time, but more so like that 17th hour through the 19th hour, my husband was just like ridden with anxiety. Like, he was full of anxiety. I seen it in his face. He kept walking like to the backyard, and he was just pacing back and forth, and you just seen it all over him. And I just kept on like, I'm like, honey, I'm okay. This thing is gonna come out, you know, it's gonna come out. I'm okay. I'm not bleeding. Like, it's gonna come out, you know. And I know he just felt so bad for me, because he just seen me like Dito. Dito means, anyway, he was like, my poor wife, like she just had the baby. She's exhausted. She's tired. She's still in pain. And we have the baby. And he's seen all the bizarre things I was doing. And he heard me praying and just like all these things. And I just know he felt so bad for me. He felt like helpless. Like, how can I help my love? Like, how can I help her? You know? So now this is the moment that made me want to cry. I'm on the toilet, spread open, and oh my gosh. And my husband was laying on the floor, his shoulder like holding him up, and he's like looking up and into the toilet, right? And he's like, and I literally seen his eyes, like they just became full of life, a little watery, wide-eyed, and he's like, oh my gosh, I see it. I just seen the weight of the world lift completely off of him. And in that moment, it just gave me like a super charge of energy, and I was like, I'm getting this thing out right now. So it's so crazy because I was giving birth again, and it literally felt like a head. And so I pushed once, and most of it came out. I felt the whole opening, everything the exact same way it felt when the baby's head coming out. That's how I felt when I was pushing out the placenta. So I did that one push, and most of it came on, and I'm looking at my husband. He's like, yeah, baby, it's coming. He's like, keep pushing, push again. And then I pushed again, a real hard push, and plop. My gosh, that 3-pound heavy circular ball, I'm literally going to attach the picture in here, fell into the toilet bowl. And that was the sweetest relief of my life. Me and my husband were hugging. We were celebrating. We were so freaking happy. We were just like, oh my gosh, it's out. We did it. And it came out fully intact. So we didn't have to worry about more stuff being up, all those things. It came out fully intact, like a literal ball. It was like, I'm going to attach the picture right here, like over here, somewhere right here, because it was massive. Bald, it was calcified, there was blood clots. It was a huge, massive ball. It was like a baby head. And it plopped in the toilet. And thank you, Jesus, from that point on, where I was just like, wow, this is out. I felt so good. Contractions completely stopped, like literally, like it was just happening, and it completely came to a halt. It stopped. They were done. I felt so happy that this thing was out. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could breathe a huge sigh of relief. I can hold my baby. I can lay in the bed. I can go to sleep. I could do all these things now. So I went in the shower. I rinsed myself off, got dressed, and I felt amazing. I felt so great. And that's that. That was the birth of my placenta. So 2 births, 2 transitions, 2 pushing outs. Okay, now that I've covered my retained placenta story, now I want to get more into the specifics of what exactly is retained placenta and the types of placenta retention, like things to be wary of, warning signs, cautions, what to do, what's an emergency, all those things. Retained placenta is when your placenta is stuck and it's not coming out. That's the most simple way it could be explained. It's just your placenta stuck and your placenta is not coming out. The 3 main types of retained placenta is placenta adherens, stuck placenta, and placenta accreta. Placenta adherens is when basically your contractions aren't strong enough to expel your placenta. So like your contractions pretty much stopped, or they're just like completely slowed down, or they're just not even strong enough to get your placenta out. That's placenta adherens. Stuck placenta is just that. So basically it was successful in detaching itself from the uterine wall, but it got stuck behind your cervix because your cervix closed up. And then placenta accreta is when the placenta was not successful in detaching, so it's still attached to the uterine wall, or it like attached itself to like a muscle lining or even scar tissue. Like if you've had a previous cesarean section, it could attach to the scar, and it's literally like just stuck to some type of lining, and that's placenta accreta. And so in my case, it was most definitely the stuck placenta, because my cervix completely closed up, and then I had to dilate from 0 centimeters to 10 centimeters again. So it detached from the uterine wall, but then it got stuck because my cervix closed up. So that's how you know, like, this is what's happening to me. My placenta is retained because my placenta is still attached. My placenta is still inside. No matter what I'm doing, my placenta is not coming out. So that's how you know you're experiencing a retained placenta. Now I want to share a list of things to be aware of, to be weary of. You know, like if you're beginning to feel feverish and you have chills and you're hemorrhaging, you're bleeding a lot. If you have a headache, if you're like, you can't keep your eyes open, if there's like a foul smelling odor down there, these are all warning signs that at this point, it may be an emergency situation and you might need to get some medical assistance. And so in my case, I was not experiencing any of that. Like I was not hemorrhaging. I was not bleeding at all. Like there was like no blood at all. I was not bleeding. I felt fine. I was like, besides the fact that I was tired, I was still pretty sharp. I was aware of everything that was going on. I didn't feel feverish. I didn't have any chills. And I felt okay. And so I didn't experience those warning signs. So in my heart, I knew, like, I had peace, because I'm like, okay, I feel okay. I know that I'm okay right now. And so in the case that that's not what you're feeling, and you're feeling all these things, or maybe you're just bleeding, I would first recommend taking shepherd's purse, which is a natural tincture that helps and aids a woman's body in postpartum hemorrhaging. And so you would take that, you wait a few minutes and see if it stops or slows down. And if it doesn't, then it's like, okay, now we're going to need medical assistance. But I would always try first the natural way, see if that works, see if this helps. Okay, let me take this shepherd's purse. Okay, bleeding is slowing down. Okay, I'm good. And then take another dosage, and then it stops bleeding. Then you're in the clear. But again, if you take that and it doesn't work, then it's like, all right, we need to get to the hospital, because this could be an emergency situation now, you know. The thing about going to the hospital is obviously there's going to be a lot of like manual like manipulation, you know, like it's not going to be a good outcome. It's not going to be something you want, you know. You want to naturally pass it yourself. But at that point, when it became an emergency situation and it's stuck inside and you're bleeding, like your life is more important than what you want at that point, you know. And so what would usually happen when you go to the hospital is, depending on the severity of it, like if you're hemorrhaging and it's like, oh my gosh, like extreme emergencies, then you'd most likely get a hysterectomy and they take it out. Sometimes your uterus, like it can get that extreme, but I'm hoping that anyone watching this video and never gets to that point, you know. But if you do need that assistance, and it's not that extreme, what they would start off doing first is they would administer some drugs, one being symptometrine, ergometrine, and then like faux oxytocin. And so what that would do is it would just like make you contract like these abnormal, crazy type of contractions to try and expel the placenta. Then if that doesn't work, the doc would manually go up and detach it, which is, I could imagine, extremely painful. And so that's worst case scenario, but still not as bad as actually having to go into the surgery, because it was extremely life-threatening. You get what I'm saying? But I'm hoping and I'm praying that anybody at the sound of my voice or watching this video, that it would never get that far, and that it would just be like mine, like a stuck placenta. And then it comes down to timing at that point where you have to be in tune, in sync with your body, and like, okay, I'm good. I'm not bleeding, you know, like all those warning signs are not there. And at that point, it's just kind of like a waiting game. And like, okay, my placenta is not ready, or my cervix is completely closed and I'm laboring again, like you're in labor again. And I have to wait for my cervix to completely dilate. And then once I'm dilated, we can get this thing out. And so just going into it with that mind frame. And I hope that this brings like rest and like assurance that if you're experiencing this variation of normal where your placenta's stuck and it's not coming out and you're not in the danger zone, you're not bleeding, you're not having fevers and chills and all the other warning signs that would need medical assistance. If you're not experiencing that and it's just stuck and it sucks so bad. Oh my gosh, I know it sucks so bad, but you will dilate. You will get to 10 centimeters and you will open up and your placenta will expel. It will come out. You will feel that sweet relief. You will be okay. And you could do it. You could 100% do this naturally. Say you really wanted to do this naturally and it's just getting to the point where maybe it's pushing hours, you know, like you're in the day mark like I was one day, or you're pushing 2 days and you're just too exhausted and you just don't want to go through this anymore. You could go that route where you go to the hospital and you get that assistance where they manually take it out, you know, or massage your stomach and try to get it out. You can do that too, because at the end of the day, that's your call. That's your decision. But I just wanted to let everybody know who wants to do it naturally. And it's like, no, hospital is not if it's not life-threatening to me, the hospital is not an option for me. Like for myself, where I knew that if I wasn't in danger and I'm okay, that thing would have been there. I would have went as many days as I could until it came out, because I just knew that the hospital wasn't an option for me, because that's just something I didn't want. But again, if it was an emergency, I'll run myself to the hospital. I'll be the first one there, you know, because again, it's not what at that point, it's not what I want. Like clearly my body, like if that was the case, I would tell myself and it would register in my brain like, all right, this can't happen, Amanda. You know, like you just can't do it naturally. You need help. And I would go and I would get the help. But thankfully, that wasn't the case for me. And I'm praying and hoping that that's not the case for anybody else watching this video. So I hope this was encouraging to you. I hope that this brings you peace. And I hope that it helped you have a better understanding of what retained placenta is and what you can naturally do to expel your placenta, and just give you peace in the waiting while you're waiting for this thing to just birth itself, because you got to open back up and all these things. So that's what retained placenta is. That was my retained placenta story. I hope you're encouraged. I hope this shed some light on this crazy variation of normal, and just gave you just like a stir, like a spur, that if you were to experience this, that you know that there have been lots of other moms who have also gone through this, and they've done it and they've been okay. And it all comes down to the timing of it, when you fully dilate again and then you're able to expel your placenta. That was a lot, right? Oh my gosh. So until next time, gatekeepers, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.